Good evening. Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Sonya Moore, CEO and owner of More Planning and Consulting, and I am back for 2022. I am so excited to be here today. This is a special segment that I'm doing today. It's the last Thursday of the month. And if this is your first time joining me for my show, I want to say welcome, welcome, and please put in the comments that you are new, put hashtag newbie, and then be sure to let me know where you're from. And I would love to have you engage into this show. So I'm super excited. I typically come to you twice a month, but I reserve the last Thursday of the month for what I call CEO Connection. And that is what we are doing today. But first, before we get started, I want to share with you, if you've never seen my show before, I want to show you a brief clip of what my show is all about. I'll be right back. All right, I am back again. If you're just now tuning in, my name is Sonya Moore. I am the CEO and owner of More Planning and Consulting, and I'm an execution strategist. And what that means is I help overwhelmed entrepreneurs gain peace and order in their business through planning and processes. And just as you saw, this show is about planning, people, and processes, because you know what? That is what you need so that you can have a sustainable and healthy business. So that's what I talk about. But tonight's episode is special because I started CEO Connection because I just don't want to talk about strategy. I actually want you to hear from other CEOs. So it's not just about me sitting here talking about strategy and how great it is, because I do it every day for small business owners all over the country. But I want to bring to you CEOs who are using strategy in their business to do big things, to hit their goals, to have $1 million contracts, networking, doing the things that they said that they wanted to do. So in order for me to talk about it, I actually need you to hear about it from other CEOs. And that's what I'm doing today in this episode of CEO Connections. So I'm going to be bringing a CEO to you to the stage, and I'm going to give her an intro so you know who you're going to be connecting with today. And as we dialogue and as I connect with her, I want you to ask questions. I want you to engage in the comments, because it's not just about us talking. We're here to serve you, because we want you to be able to engage and ask those real questions that sometimes small business owners are not able to do. That's what this segment is all about. So I'm going to give you a brief intro of who I'm going to bring to the virtual stage as the CEO for this evening. I'm going to be connecting with Deborah Gray-Young. She's the managing partner of D. Gray-Young Inc., a management consulting boutique providing strategic business advisory and professional development services to corporations and individuals. Deborah is an ICF accredited executive and leadership coach. She is accredited, okay? Love that. She's just not a coach out here just saying she's a coach. She's accredited. She works primarily with Black professional women and women of color in global corporations. Deborah helps her clients increase their political savvy, strengthen their leadership skills, and enhance their executive presence to achieve their next levels of success. Deborah also leverages her 30 plus years successful career in advertising to help marketing agencies stay abreast of the multicultural marketing landscape and develops custom training programs to enhance client engagement. But I'm not done yet. Deborah is the author of not one, but 2 books. What do they mean when they say Decoding Performance Evaluations and the Young Professional's Handbook, a primer for young people entering the professional workforce? Both are available on Amazon and Kindle. So I'm bringing to you to the stage Deborah Gray-Young. Welcome, Deborah.
Hello, good evening.
How are
Thank
you?
you. I am doing well. I got to tell you, I'm listening to you read that bio and I'm thinking to myself, who is she talking about?
It's one thing to know it, but to hear it, right? I'm talking
Yes,
about you. I'm
yes.
talking about you.
It is one thing to have done it and lived it, but when you hear it coming out of somebody else's mouth, it's like, huh?
Well, this is you. This is you. Thank you so much for taking time this evening. I'm so excited for this interview. You are my first one of the year and my fifth one total since I started
Yeah,
this segment. So,
special.
yes, love it. So, for all of you, I just want you to know that Deborah is a dear friend and a client of mine. And I just had to have her on this segment because we have real conversations. Okay. And I felt like we needed to bring this to the table so everybody can get a glimpse into our world and our conversations. And for her to share her gems, her secrets, her things that have helped her in her career. So I'm going to kick this off so Deborah can have the floor. So Deborah, tell us a little bit more about who you are, who you serve, and why did you become a CEO, girlfriend?
So, which one do you want me to answer first? So, who am I? The well, I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, and I started out as a journalism major in college, and I ended up some strange kind of way in advertising, and that's where I spent um, well over 30 years in advertising. Um, and it was a really interesting career, not all smooth, but as I look back on it, I was really fortunate.
Okay.
Um, and then after about 30 some odd years in, I just really one day woke up one morning and I said, if I have to go to another airport, if I got to get on another plane,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go to the hospital. Um, and so I decided that at that point I needed to figure out what I was going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my time, and over 2 years, I came to some decisions about what I wanted to do, and I what I took into consideration were the things that I'm good at, the things that I like, the things that I wanted no part of.
Mm-hmm. That's important to know, right?
That's important to know, which is how I landed on becoming a coach, a certified coach,
Mm-hmm.
and my business is D. Gray-Young Coaching and Consulting,
Okay.
and yeah, which I started back in 2008. Back in 2008, after I was downsized,
Uh-huh.
the whole agency basically. And I literally walked out of my back door, went cut across my backyard, went to my accountant's office and said, I need you to make me a company.
Okay. Okay.
That and that and which is why the name of my company is so generic, right? It's D Gray Young Inc. because I couldn't think of anything else at the time. So
It's you though. It's your company. It's
it's
branded
my
you. And that,
company, right?
believe it or not, you were at the beginning of the trend because that's common now. People are naming their
Yes,
companies after
companies
them.
after them. Yeah.
And my CWO, my chief wellness officer, is she's on the job. So bear with me just one moment. Okay. Sorry about that. Hey, that happens sometimes, right? But all my clients know, all my guests know who my
Chief
CEO, my
wellness officer.
CWO, my chief wellness officer is my four-legged pooch, if you didn't know. So There you go. All right. So you said start me a company. You named it after you. And how's that journey been for you as a CEO? Talk to
Well,
me about that.
it's been interesting. So going back to one of your questions, why did I decide to become a CEO? That was not part of the equation. I never looked at it that way.
Okay.
So CEO was not part of my mindset, if you will. It really was um, in the beginning when I first started the company. It was a consulting boutique,
Okay.
and that I formed that because when people realized that I had been downsized, me and dozens of other people, I started getting all these calls for consulting projects,
Hmm.
and so
And that's
that's
a
why,
dream, by the way.
yeah, it
That's
is.
a dream.
Um, so that's why I formed the company, and then in 2013, when I became a certified coach, I added the coaching services to the business. But if we fast forward to today, again, being a CEO was not my mindset. It really was creating something that allowed me to work on the projects that I wanted to work on, and allowed me to select who I wanted to work with. And so essentially, what I have is a lifestyle business, right? So
Okay.
I work on what I want to work on, and I work with who I want to work with. And if I don't feel like it, then I don't do it. Or if I don't like how how the other people are doing business, I
Hmm.
won't I won't do business with them. So for me, it's not a money grab. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to as I'm fond of saying to my clients, I'm not trying to build a summer house. Although somebody did remind me that I deserve a summer house, and I said that's great, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm
Hmm.
trying to be of service and
I love that.
use my gifts and my experience to help other people level up.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
I love that. I mean, you're about serving from the heart. That's why I love working with you. And I know because you hear a lot of raise your prices, raise your prices. Now, yes, you should, right? If you are not where you need to be, but it's remembering, making sure that that price aligns with the service that you're actually going to give. And I appreciate that about you, that you're going to make sure there's alignment there. But the first thing is you want to be able to serve. So I love that. So talk to
and
me.
can I just say something about that though? Um, and so for me, it's the pricing. Yes, is it in alignment with what you want to offer? But I look at it also as, is the pricing in alignment with the what people can afford to do, right? So
Mhm,
um, am I cheap? No, but I don't believe that charging an exorbitant amount of money
mhm.
is I don't think that's honorable.
Okay.
Now, I'm not knocking people who can get that, but
Mhm,
there are, the people that I want to serve and the people that I want to help,
mhm.
you know, um, I try to price it so that the people who need the help can afford to get the help.
Yes, and that's about your target audience as well, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
being in tune with who those individuals are and where they are and how you want to serve them. So it really is a lot of different things, and you have to know as a business owner what's important to you, right? And
Right.
how you serve and
Right.
how you show up. And for you, you want it to be affordable. And now affordable, that word can be seen in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different light, in
Right.
a much different light, but it's about how you define that, how it sits with you so that you are okay with it as you're serving. So I think you're right on the money about that. So how did you decide to get to that point though? Because I know you've been in the game a while. So how how are you able to be comfortable with that, or how did you land on that?
On how I price.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I looked at I use my marketing expertise,
Exactly.
right? And
And we have a
look,
user here that says, I love the way you put that. I'm not sure who that is, but if you could put your name in there so I can give you a shout out, that would be great. But you're hitting home with some of our viewers.
um, I looked at the marketplace, and so I know what the top end is, but I also looked at who needs the help, who needs the help the most, right?
Mm,
And so pricing it so that people can afford it on their own, because most people don't have the luxury of their companies providing professional development for them.
okay. Because
And
that's
even
your
if they,
target audience, right?
yeah, so there's a lot more of them, right, than people who who get the benefit or have the benefit of professional development. And
Hmm.
so that's what I was looking at, because um, I've been working long enough to see the difference that professional development can make in a
Hmm.
career trajectory. I wish and so essentially, I provide for people what I wish I had access to when I was starting my career. And
Okay. And remind
and
us who
not
your audience is again for those
uh,
that are
Black
tuning
professional
in.
women. So
Okay.
I work primarily with Black professional women, although I do work with other professionals of color,
Hmm.
and that's on purpose, because we have, as Black professionals and as professionals of color, we experience things very, very differently than people who don't come from our communities.
Hmm.
And so I understand um, a lot of the experiences, a lot of the nuances, and I definitely understand a lot of the cultural framework from which people are operating. And that the one thing, I mean, there are a lot of things wrong with corporate America, but the lack of cultural intelligence is one of those, right?
Hmm.
So assuming that everybody has the same challenge or experiences challenges the same way is um, the biggest mistake. Number one, and number two, most of the conversation around DE and I is lip service, and so how do you break through that? And what I mean by break through that, so a
Hmm.
company could be talking DE and I all day long.
Hmm.
Um, but as a Black professional woman or a professional of color, they're still dealing with bullying and just, um, really these nasty kind of remarks. I hate the word microaggressions, because it's like putting lipstick on a pig, right?
Hmm.
It's like, just call it what it is, right?
Right. Exactly.
Stop trying to dress it up, trying to spare somebody's feelings. I listen. It's insulting. It's disparaging. It's
Mhm.
denigrating. Um, that's what these comments are. So
Right. So your
y'all can
services are
maybe you can
definitely
keep the
needed.
labels.
Yes, your
Yeah.
services are definitely needed. So as you are serving in your business, you're making sure that you are at a reachable point for those individuals that need your services so that they can continue to enhance their professional development on their own and not have to rely on their company. I wish I would have known you back in my
Me too.
corporate America days. And we talk about that all the time
Yep.
because I didn't realize that that was even something I could even consider having at my disposal because I was seen as, middle management. In the organization I was in, it was more of the senior management that had the ability and the opportunity to have coaches.
They had
And I
access
didn't
to
think of
that,
doing
right?
that on my own. So I read books to figure it out.
Well,
Uh,
you did it the way that was probably best to do it back then, right? Because there would not have been a lot of coaches that look like you or me,
mhm,
that could really understand the path that you were on and some of the things that you were experiencing,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So and that makes a big difference that even today I don't know that companies really grasp how important that is to
I
have
think they're
a
starting
diverse team.
to.
They're starting to, yeah.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but eyes have definitely started to open, which is good. But I love the service you provide because you allow people to take control of their own development so that
Yeah,
they're not
that's important.
tied to their organization.
Right.
And it's very objective and not subjective to what the organization needs, but what they need as an individual so that they are marketable for any organization that they're wanting to pursue. And the fact that you are certified, I love that, which sets you apart. So as you are reflecting on your CEO journey in your organization and deciding who you're going to serve, how you're going to serve, what was strategy to you at this time? How do you use strategy in your business to continue to stay ahead and to have a thriving company?
So what's important about that is everybody walks around with the idea in their head, right? Even so you have an idea or you have goals, you
Mhm.
know, things that you want to accomplish, and they're all in your head.
Mhm.
If you don't get it down on paper, whatever your form of paper is, could be your computer, your tablet, your chalkboard, whatever it is, you have to get it out of your head. The key thing about strategy is, and I spent all of my career as a strategist, right?
Mhm.
But the key thing about a strategy is understanding what strategy is. It's really detailing what is it that you want to do.
Mhm.
So my field of expertise was media. So we always started out with an objective. What's the media objective, and what's the strategy? Um, how are you going to accomplish that? And you have to think that through. Now, so getting it out of your head, down on paper, so that you could actually look at it and then start to fill in the knowledge gaps. And for me, because we all know execution is not my strong suit, you know, somebody's got to look at it and say, well, Deborah, if you want to do this by February 1st, you need to have this done by January 15th. Oh,
Lead
okay.
time to actually do it. Oh my goodness. Like, yes,
Yeah.
it's we
And,
have this
and
idea. Mhm.
time to actually do it, but also for somebody to point out what are the the I don't want to say the little things because they could be little or big, right? The things that are hidden in there that you may not even be thinking about. It may not even be on your radar screen that could impact. your your ability to get it to market the in the time that you want to. So, um, but that strategy piece is really really important because without that, you are guaranteed to have some surprises. You're
Yes.
guaranteed to have some
Unwanted
surprises.
surprises
Yeah,
and
unwanted surprises.
lose
Yeah,
revenue, because lose revenue and you're not maximizing your revenue potential, because strategy, to your point, allows you to bring someone in, whether it's in your organization or outside, or someone else, to see the gaps, to see the hole, but yet see the opportunities that are being missed, that
right.
if you had more time, you're able to generate even more revenue. And those things require time to be able to do them the right way. Because sometimes people just throw spaghetti at the wall, like, okay, we're just going to get this done. And they just push, push, push. But it's like, you can push every now and then. But if that is your everyday, that's not going to sustain you. And
Oh, you
you're
can't
not going
sustain
to
that.
be able
Mm-mm,
to,
mm-mm.
you won't be able to do that. You're going to burn out, and or your business won't be where it needs to be, and you end up closing your doors. So it sounds like you as the strategist, right? But does the strategist need a strategist?
Oh, for sure. One of the things, even in my work as a coach, one of the things that I help people with is seeing what other people see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very few people, very few of us see ourselves the way other people see us. Very few.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, and you've heard me say this before, you can't read the label of the jar you're in. So if you take that, just sort of take that concept and apply it to your business, as I said, everybody's walking around with ideas in their head, and this is what their business is, and this is what they want to do. But you can't see it the way other people see it. And that was one of the things that was really helpful when you and I sat down and did this strategy session. First of all, I don't understand how knew you understood my business like from end to end. And we had only ever talked like maybe a half hour. So that that in and of itself was amazing, but you were able to point out some things that, as well as I knew my business and I know what I'm an expert in, there were things that, I didn't think about, didn't see, and I'm known for being able to see around corners. But
Yeah.
when it came to when it came to the strategy for my business, there were things that were very, very obvious to you that I had a blind
Mm-hmm.
spot to,
Mm-hmm.
and that made all the difference because
Those.
it impacted how things were executed, right? And
Mm,
and the thing that you don't always see is how one thing is linked to something else, and
yes.
then that thing is linked to something else.
Yes.
And I think the best illustration I had of that was one year. I was working on something and I was using a really well linked Gantt chart. And so, as one milestone moved, it moved everything else that was linked to it.
Yes.
And that is eye opening.
It is
Yeah,
very
that is,
eye-opening,
yeah,
because
it's
when
very
you
eye opening.
have a plan and you have five different people working on it, or just five different major tasks tied to that one thing, and that one thing is, oh, production on that can't happen for 2 weeks, it's going to have to push that day back. Someone may just say, okay, but it's like, no, 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 time out. Let's go back to the plan and see, if we miss this 2 week deadline, then it's going to affect that marketing plan, then it's going to affect when we launch this, it's going to affect that. And it puts a whole new light
Whole different thing.
on
Yep.
accountability, right? Having extra time, building in buffer, and communication
Hmm.
as well. So I love Gantt charts. I love them because you can see how all those pieces, as you say, link together
Yep. They all
to
link
see
together. Yep.
Yes, to see how it all works. So as you are a strategist, but you had to bring me in to help. You brought me in to assist to see what you can't see because again, being in the weeds, right?
Right.
Being in
You
the
can't
weeds.
see what other people see.
Absolutely. And I love your analogy of you can't see for the jar you're in. So if you just visualize that for a minute, and for the people that are watching, visualize yourself being inside of a jar.
And trying to read the label.
Exactly. And the
Yeah.
label is where you need to go, right? It's like the
Right.
directions. You can't see them because you're inside of the jar. Like that analogy is just so real. So
Yep.
real. And I've also heard people say you can't see for you're the picture, you're inside of the frame. What is that?
Hmm.
They say something like that anyway. But same analogy. So, what can you say about how implementing strategy in your business has changed the trajectory of your business, or a time where it benefited you, or not having one didn't benefit you? Can you give a story so the CEOs out there can understand the impact?
So I think the biggest difference it made is that for years I had tons of ideas. I mean, I still have tons of ideas. I probably have 3 pages worth of ideas right now sitting in my computer. And as I said, execution is not my strong suit. And it took me a while to figure out that I just needed somebody that could look at what was on paper and take it off the paper. Just
Mhm.
lift it off the page. And that was the difference. So I've had tons and tons of ideas, but being able to get those ideas off the page has made a big difference because it
Mm.
will also tell you whether or not the idea was any good, or whether how
Yes.
you need to tweak it,
Hmm.
or and things like that. So that was the difference, and
Ah.
having somebody whose expertise was looking at the idea, knowing what it would take to lift it up off the page and
Mhm.
get it into the marketplace. Yeah.
Yes. So, as they say, ideas sometimes never get birthed, they just die, right? So, it's
Oh,
like,
I
no,
got
we
tons
want,
of those.
right. And most people have those ideas, but it's like putting it on a paper, it brings it to life, number one. And as I like to say, it turns that idea into income when you can actually get it off the page. But also, too, when you do put it on paper, you can see what you need to do versus what you need to delegate. And you just mentioned that execution isn't your strong suit. So as
It's
you're
not.
putting together the plan, you're able to be real honest with yourself to know what you're good at and what you need to let go of so that someone else can be the expert in that area and help manifest that dream of yours that you have.
Yes.
The
Yep.
saying that I was trying to say, you can't see the picture if you're the frame.
Ah,
That's what
I've
I was
never
trying to
heard
say.
that one before. I like that.
Thank you. I believe that is Javaka, that she's watching us right now, and she shared that. And she
Ah, I'm
also
gonna have
has
to
some
use
other
that.
things. She says that you're really speaking to her. Also,
Oh,
some of the things that you were
good,
saying
good, good,
earlier.
good. I can
So
to
that's
be
amazing.
of service today.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you are a wealth of experience, and just from what you do in your business, who you serve, and knowing that strategy is so important. I really appreciate that you're good at it. But it's like what they say: coaches need coaches.
Oh yeah, for sure. Eh, I will
Coaches.
tell you that. Yep. I meet with my coach tomorrow morning, first
Mhm.
thing. Yep.
So, what
Coaches
would
need
you tell a
coaches
young
too.
CEO, someone that's just starting out in their business, and they're like, oh my goodness, there's just so much to do. I don't have time to sit down and take in all these ideas out of my head. I just need to go, go, go. What advice would you give them?
Well, so go, go, go will get you in trouble. So if you just go, 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 think about if you're in a car, whether you're driving the car or you're a passenger. If you're a passenger, you get to see more of the scenery. If you're
Mm,
the driver, all you see are the cars in front of you and behind you.
mm,
You don't get to appreciate the countryside, all these other things. So go 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 doesn't work, at least not in my experience.
mhm,
The thing about strategy is you have to be clear on where you're trying to go. Where are you going? What and how are you going to get there? That's what the strategy will do for you, right? And it's not an overnight process. So if
mm,
you are manufacturing a widget, whatever that might be, um, you start out with your blueprint, which is your business plan,
mhm,
and then you'll have a long-term strategy and a short-term strategy. But
mhm,
there are steps, building blocks to each of those, and it takes time. So this race to the finish line,
mhm,
first of all, the breakneck speed is not sustainable, and you need to plan um, to be an entrepreneur or a CEO.
mhm,
If you're starting your business and you're walking away from your day job to start your business, the expectation that business is going to be able to sustain you right out the bat
mhm.
is probably not the most practical expectation, which means then you're going to find yourself doing some interesting things in order to generate revenue because the mortgage is due on Tuesday
Yes,
and
yes.
the phone bill is due on Friday. And oh, by the way, even if you live in Florida, it's cold.
Hmm.
So which means the heat bill is coming due.
Yes.
So you want to give yourself, and that's why planning is important, because you want to
Hmm.
give yourself some room to for these things to fall into place.
Hmm.
Because if you don't, um, it's not going to be as much fun as you expect it to be. And that's another thing is I'd like to bust the myth that being an entrepreneur or having your own business, because having your own business has been glorified. I mean, it's like,
I
oh,
agree.
and it is. I'm here to tell you, it is not as sexy as people make it sound. And if what you really want to do is work at your own pace and be your own boss, and you're tired of long hours and low pay, let me tell
Hmm.
you, being an entrepreneur, you're in for the same thing. You will be doing all nighters, and you will not, in all likelihood, be getting those multi-million dollar contracts as soon as you hang up your shingle. You have to
It takes
plan.
time.
You have
Yes.
to plan. You have to
Yes.
plan.
You
Right.
have to plan. And I appreciate what you said as far as if you're trying to leave your day job, because I know there are some viewers out there that aspire to leave their day job and work for themselves full time. So, what would you suggest if you had to put together an exit kit of these are the things you should have in place before you leave your full time job to be a full-time entrepreneur? What were some things that you would make sure that they have inside of their kit?
2 years living expenses.
Okay.
A lot of people tell you all you need is 6 months. I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you, have 2 years of living expenses. If your business takes off and you don't need the 2 years of living expenses,
Mm-hmm.
great. But if you have 2 years living expenses, then you don't have to have a nervous breakdown if something doesn't go the way you anticipated, because everything takes more time than you think it does.
Yes.
That is the one thing I know for sure. Everything takes longer than you think it does. So if you think it's only going to take a month, it's probably going to take 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So is there
So that
anything
would
else?
be the thing. Yeah, I would say be clear about, and again, this comes back to plans, right?
Mhm.
Planning. Be clear about what it is you want to do now, but don't be so stuck on that you're not willing
Mm.
to adjust. You might have to make some changes to your dreams. You might have to make some changes to your goal. You might get halfway down the road and decide, you know what? I really don't like this.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to walk away from it, if
Mm-hmm.
because if it's something that you don't feel in your soul, when
Mm-hmm.
times get tough, it's going to be hard to hang in there.
Yes, yes. And it's okay to pivot and shift. I know
Oh
I've
yeah,
even adjusted services because you think this is what you want, or even you might think who you serve wants this, but then you realize they may not want it, or it's not selling. It's not something you want to do personally. You can shift. That's the
yeah,
beauty as well, though, to be a CEO of your own
right,
organization, is that you can shift and say, you know what, I don't want to offer that service anymore, because you learn a lot as you are navigating the terrain because it's bumpy
right.
as you're navigating. And the beauty is, one, remembering you are a CEO. And I remind my clients of that, and people in my society, you are a CEO, which means you can call the shots. So if you want to shift, you can do that. Now, have a plan to shift, and take some time to really think that through, of what that's going to cause on the back end, right?
Hmm.
But the key is that you have the power to do that. I
Can
love
I
that.
can I say something about that?
Mhm.
Though, so I think I said at the top that I didn't start my business with the notion of I want to be a CEO.
Mhm.
It really was, I'm tired. I've been doing this for, 3.5 decades, and,
Mhm.
and I need to work at my own pace. But one of the things that I have observed is that the notion of CEO
Mhm.
is a role and a function that one grows into.
Absolutely.
You don't just wake up tomorrow and, oh, I'm the CEO.
Mhm.
It not only is it a mindset, but
Yes.
the conditions or the situation has to support that. And here's what I mean by that. So, as the CEO, you get to make all the decisions and you can
Mhm.
pivot and all of that. But you might also have to lick the stamps.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Multiple
I
roles.
know we don't
Yes.
use stamps anymore, but you understand
Right.
what I mean. You might have to do, some of the administrative work
Yes.
until you get to the place where you have, an administrative assistant or something like that.
Absolutely.
So I caution people about um, taking these huge leaps
Mhm.
and leaping over some of the important things. And
Yes.
that and those important things could be very little, right? They
Mhm.
could be very
Mhm.
small things. um, One of the things that's really important, I started to say this, is have a clear understanding of where it is you're at least trying to go,
Mhm.
and what will it take to get there. Now, you don't need to know all of that up front, but you must have somebody that you can talk to, somebody that can provide you with some guidance, a truth teller,
Mhm.
um, so that you're not stepping over some important things. Like I said to a client um, not that long ago, we were talking about something, and they didn't realize that their company has a credit rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, it does. So you have to be mindful of, things that you're doing in terms of how you're managing the business because it
Yes.
impacts the company's credit rating. Just small things like that,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah,
I agree with you. You do definitely have to grow into it. And it is definitely a mindset. And
yeah, it is.
definitely at the beginning, you're going to be all the people, solopreneur. You're going to be the marketing person, the assistant, the CFO, the CEO, and
Hmm.
every other
Hmm.
thing in between. But the beauty is having that mindset. You're operating and should operate like an organization. So as you are growing and you're doing those roles, you're understanding what that
Yes,
role looks like and should feel like for your company.
right.
So when you're ready to bring someone in to be that assistant, you've worked in that role to know this is the type of person that I want to bring into this role because this is the vision that I have. These are the values and this is the type of person and the type of service I want to provide. You get very clear on the person that you want to bring into that role. It's
Or the
when
skills, the
or
skills.
the skills, yes, the hard
Hmm.
skills and the soft skills
Hmm.
required for that role
Right.
because oftentimes you have people that are the CEO and they're like, I don't have time for any of that. Well,
You should.
tell me what your mission is. Tell me what your vision is. And what type of people do you want to bring aboard? Well, I don't know. Well, you need to know because you own the vision of your company. You
That's
can't,
right.
if you can't articulate your vision, you can't expect someone else to. That is something I say all the time. If you can't articulate your own vision, you can't expect someone else to because it will show up in everything your social media copy,
Hmm.
in your
Hmm.
pitch, in everything that represents your company. It starts with you. Period. So if you don't have time to figure that out, then you don't have time to be a
Right.
CEO or even be a business owner, quite frankly.
Right. Exactly. And then and your growth and your growth trajectory
Mhm.
hinges on that.
Yes.
It hinges on that.
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's levels to it.
Hmm.
I mean, you
Hmm.
start off as a CEO that's just starting off and you're growing. And as you grow, there are different levels, which requires you to stretch in different ways. And I like to say, expand your comfort zone and you
Hmm.
continue to grow. There's always a new level to reach, especially if your revenue potential is shifting and getting higher. There are different expectations that's required at each role,
Oh,
at each level.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
you need to know
absolutely.
that. Absolutely. Staying sharp about what's going on in your industry and how you want it to be applied to your business is key as
Yes.
well. Because everyone's not your client or your customer. Every trend that's out there may not be the right trend for your organization or
Hmm.
for your business. That's why it's important to understand your values, your vision, your mission, so that that anchors you. And that
Yes.
even ties into your strategy as well. So I love this. So having two, you said being very clear
Hmm.
on what they want, and then also having at least 2 years, not months, but 2 years of income available. Is there anything else that you would put in this kit for the viewers? And good afternoon for some viewers that just joined us. We're talking about what you would need if you're wanting to leave your day job to be a full-time CEO in your business. And I just asked Deborah what would be in her exit kit to prepare her to be a full-time CEO.
So so we talked about 2 years of living expenses,
Mhm.
without touching your 401k, by the way. Let me put that in there.
Good point.
Um, and then what was the second thing I said? Oh, be real clear about where
Mhm.
it is that you're trying to go.
Mhm.
The third thing is understand the marketplace. So
Mhm.
whatever that whatever it is you're proposing to do, whether you're manufacturing something or it's a service business, understand the marketplace for that your business will be in. Where does your business fit? How do
Mm,
you position yourself? And what's the larger marketplace? In my world, we call it the ecosystem, right?
mhm,
So it's not just what I do, but what's the larger ecosystem, and what does that look like? You train yourself to see around corners, or to understand what's coming over the horizon, right? you,
mhm.
you have to you have to have a sense of that, because if you don't, um, you'll you'll be behind before you even get started.
Yes, and you have to
And
make
so,
time. That
right,
like I equate that to making time for the things that oftentimes when we're busy, I don't have time to look at that. I don't have time to read that. I don't have time to that's where you need to make time.
yeah.
Like
I
you said.
start my day every day with reading the trades, right?
Mm,
So because my consulting clients rely on me to help them stay abreast of what they in stay abreast of the marketplace. Well, I
mhm.
can't do that if I'm keeping up with the Kardashians,
Right.
right? So I hope they don't sue me for saying that, but but so I'm reading things that are relevant to my clients. And
Okay.
every now and then, if I come across something that's really, really important, I will send it to them. I'm like, you need to be aware of this. Or in the case of one client, I send him notes and say, this is somebody you need to know, or this is a company that's doing something that's really innovative. You take a look at this, right?
Mhm.
um and keeping abreast of your marketplace, because you don't want to be stale. I had a
Right.
conversation with somebody, what's today, Thursday, yesterday, and they were talking about a client that they have that's literally stuck in the 20th century. I'm like, really? We're 22 years into the 21st century, people. Come on. Come, because there will come a point where you won't be able to catch up.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes. I'm taking some notes on this. You see me looking down. I love that. I
yeah.
think this is some good advice for. I have a lot of CEOs who are, working full time and they're wanting to leave. So I love that what you're suggesting here because it's giving them a heads up. The stuff that people aren't talking about, the realness of what entrepreneurship
Oh
is.
yeah, it's not as pretty and sexy as people make it out to be.
You're
Just
right.
just so you know, right? So it can get long and lonely, and um depending on what sector you're in,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not that pretty
And having a
initially.
network.
Initially. Yeah.
Yes, finding your tribe, if you will, or your network
Hmm.
because it changes as you go from corporate, at least in my experience, going from corporate to entrepreneurship, your circle shifts because now it's entrepreneurial based. And what you did in corporate can be applied to entrepreneurship, but it's not entrepreneurship. So
Right.
finding trusted individuals that you can bounce things off of because running a business is different than just talking to your girlfriend. Hey, I have an idea. If they're not business owners, they may not get it and they may not be the best person to run a business based idea off of. But
Right.
they might be
That's very true.
your sister girl who gives you support. Like yes, when
Yeah,
you
and
need
you
to be
gotta
pumped
have
up.
them. You gotta have them, but
Right.
that might not be who
Know
you
the
go
place.
to for business strategy. Yeah,
Exactly. Know
yeah.
their place. Definitely know their
The
place.
other thing I'd like to add this as well.
Hmm.
So we talked about finances. We talked about a roadmap. ecosystem. Here is probably, this is number four, but it's probably the most important thing. And
Okay.
that is decide how you want to show up.
Mm. Presence.
How do you want to show up?
Yes.
Are you showing up as a diva
Mm.
or a servant?
Mm.
And when I say servant, I don't mean the help.
I love it. I love it. How you want to show up.
How do
And
you
why
want
is
to
that
show up?
important, Deborah?
Well, because it's cute these days to say, I don't really care what anybody thinks about me. Well, you better,
Mm-hmm.
because it's how people think about you, what they think about you is will be the gateway to a lot of the business that you get to do.
Love that.
Relationships. The relationships. That is key. And your relationships are, every relationship, whether it's personal or professional, is based on how people perceive you, what they
Mm-hmm.
think about you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I
agree.
will tell you from personal experience, just what I've observed over the course of my 3 decades and more,
Mm-hmm.
nobody likes a diva.
Mm-hmm.
I've yet to meet anybody that likes a diva.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So would that be number five?
No, that was it.
Relationship? Or would you say number four is relationships is number four? Because you said
Yeah,
how they show up. So you
how
would
they
say
show up.
relationship would be number. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
got it. So finances, roadmap, an ecosystem, and relationships. You said would be in the exit kit
Mm-hmm.
of someone wanting to leave their full-time job and pursue full-time entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I think those are good and actually not good, but great things to take away. So as we close, I'm looking at what is the last question? What would you tell your younger entrepreneurial self about strategy or even about just running a business that you wish you would have known sooner?
Oh, there's so much. I really didn't know anything about running a business. Um, and a lot of it I just learned recently because of a program that I went through
Mm-hmm.
that was eye opening.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so learn what you can about actually running a business. I will tell you this. It is not nearly as simple as it looks. It looks easy, you know, nobody uses business cards anymore, but yeah, I used to joke that people would come up with a name and go on Vistaprint and get 500 cards for $10 and they would be in business.
mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot more to it than that. The financial responsibility, there's a whole world out there in terms of business ownership that is hiding in plain sight, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I know there's a book that I read in our my CEO Society group, which was eye-opening as well, and it's called E-Myth Revisited.
Hmm.
And that is a fantastic foundational book for anyone that is wanting to start a business. And it's just one of those good books to start to read and just begin to position yourself because it
Hmm.
makes you think about running a business to your point and not just having a
Right.
business.
And
There's a
study
difference.
business. Study
Yes.
business.
And you want
You.
it to be sustainable and healthy. because
Hmm.
people like, yeah, I have a business and this is how much revenue, these are the sales that I have. But it's like, but what's the revenue though? Because that's basically what you have coming in versus what you have coming out and what's
Going
left
out.
at the end of the day. That's the
Right.
number I want to talk about. So just don't talk about the sales to me. That's great. But the health of the business matters.
Yeah, and
So,
that's a topic, a subject unto itself that you could
yes,
study. Right. Yeah. So
yes,
study
absolutely.
business. Yeah.
Yes. So some of our viewers are chiming in. Diallo, thanks for joining. It's a high school friend of mine. Constantly study your craft. Yes,
Yes.
I agree, Diallo.
Yep.
And he has been a business owner for a while, someone that I've been following for quite some time, and he's doing well. And he's always been real about the business, creating one from the ground up. So thanks for joining. I think this was Javaka. She's all ears about what you're saying tonight. So you dropped a lot of gems tonight, Deborah. Another great conversation. Thank you so much
You're welcome. My
for
pleasure.
gracing the virtual stage for my first CEO Connection interview of the year. For those
Yes.
that just tuned in, be sure to watch the replay of this and be sure to put hashtag replay in the comments. Again, Deborah's been fantastic. And if you want to follow Deborah, because I'll tell you this, she's on LinkedIn and the things that she posts about perks your ears. They're just continuous knowledge and wisdom and nuggets. And let me give you her LinkedIn. So there is Deborah's LinkedIn information if you want to join her. It's a treat. She will get you together. And if you are someone that needs some executive coaching because you need to show up, be more political savvy, get that advice, true advice to get you to the next level that you know you're not getting possibly in your role. She is the one that has all the resources. Again, she is certified. She could get you together. I wish that I had her back in my corporate days, but I have her now. So I have her now. So
And
with
our
that,
conversations are doozies.
yes, yes. So, again, thank you so much for joining me for this segment of CEO Connection. We'll be back next month for another CEO Connection. But before we leave, let me check these comments. Let's see. I'm definitely going to be back and listen. Thanks so much. And Diallo says, thanks. Thanks to the both of us. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to head out this evening. Thank you so much for joining. We will be back again, and I will see you soon.
Be well,
Have a good
everyone.
evening.